So, welcome to my show, The Genius Code, Gopi sir. It's been an honor, a privilege working with you on your book. I always land up saying I'm the greatest beneficiary of the work because I got to spend time with you, I got to talk to you, I got to watch you, and then capture your life in a book. I tell you, it's been the ride of a lifetime. I have learned like double, triple, and this show is mainly about decoding the genius, decoding the champion mindset. So thank you for coming on it.
Thank you. It's so nice interacting with you. In fact, you normally interact with an author, but typically to interact with somebody who's herself actually kind of imbibed so many of those things is really amazing.
Oh, thank you. You made my day. I'll live a few days longer. And now with the Olympics coming, there is so much excitement, there is so much nervousness, but then look at you, you have this calmness about you, like Yoda from Star Wars. How do you remain so calm? I'm sure there's a lot of pressure under the surface, but how do you be like you are?
Well, for me, from early childhood, I would have actually a lot of pressure and tension. It would be very, very jittery, very finicky about things. But over time, and I've lost a lot of matches. People remember me for the wins, but I and my students have lost a lot of matches, and that sobers you down to the point where you realize that anything might happen. And normally, victories don't need much preparation. You can adapt to victories very well, but failures do need preparation. So you need to be kind of in a space where it's okay even if it fails. And at the end of the day, I've played sport very passionately. And this is 36 years of my life. I've almost every day thought and or played sport. Even if I haven't played, I've thought about it all the time. So it's like with so much of it in your mind, if I were to keep pressurizing myself with a match which comes every few months or every few years also, it's going to be very tough, because although we see it from a badminton perspective or the sport perspective in terms of Olympics, but then I also see it like a month from now, there will be Super Series events back to back. In the end of the year, we have a World Championships. In March, we have Commonwealth. In August, we have the Asian Games, and then the World Championships. And then next year is the Olympic qualification year. So although in times of time zones, we look at, say, 2024, but time just flies, and there is a mission and a project and a project. So it's almost like, okay, so this is done. So when you do it over for maybe 20 years, there's kind of that kind of level where this is part of life. There's nothing to be excited about. This is part of work. So that's where I come from. Yes, there is pressure. There are nights when I don't sleep very well in that sense. Watching matches, rewinding matches, and if I get an idea, then a bit restless to try it out in the morning. So these things do happen, but by and large, I kind of settle to peace with wherever I am.
It's very interesting. I mean, say even the difference between both of us, your voice is so calm and mine is loud and hyper. So I still have to learn that from you. But I really like what you said, that it's not it. The Olympics is not it. You have so much more to look forward to. There are more matches. The vision is bigger. And I think what happens commonly in other professions is that is it. You don't know the vision beyond that. That was an all end. And therefore, there is a lot of pressure. They haven't put the next benchmark or the next milestone. So I think, that is an amazing thing to have as a mindset for a sports person.
I think possibly if this was, say, 2008 or 12 Olympics, maybe it was a little more pressure point, and you could have maybe seen the difference. But when I look at things now, say 10 years from then on, when we won our first medal at the Olympics, to now, I think you just see life as a larger thing, in the sense we won multiple awards or wins at World Championships and Olympics, and then you see multiple players performing. So you really, for me, the entire story is when you're successful to put up a system But you also know that a system is never put up really, although you really want to and think that when you build the next place or when you produce the next player or when you put up, I think challenges do keep coming. So you have to live with the fact that there's never going to be peace around in circumstances. So you might as well make peace with yourself and kind of figure a way of working out.
And it shows, so even if you didn't say so, it shows. And I feel that if it doesn't show, then it's not real. I also believe that, when you are immersed in your craft, the kind of immersion champions or geniuses have, it's so deep rooted that it catches depth. And when you get there, then your name becomes synonymous with the purpose, with the craft, and your presence is your purpose. And to get there, because you were in sport, you were a sports person since a child. So you have that kind of rooting, as I would call it. But does it also need sacrifice? Did you have to compromise? Did you have to let go? Did you have to put life on hold? Do you look back and say, I could have lived better? Because those times will never come again. Your life has been sport. And if you look at accomplished people, that's how their life has been, to the point that your name today is synonymous with the industry. So do you think it takes a toll?
It does. It does. Yeah, I would be very unfair in saying a statement otherwise. Because for any profession, for you to be at the best of what you can be, you actually have to kind of spend insane hours of time on it. And when you spend such amounts of time, because it's not only the time which you spend during, but actually afterwards when you're thinking about it, you actually miss out on a lot of things. In the sense, socially, for example, many champions I would know, me personally as well, would be very challenging, because I'm not at a comfort zone when I have to do a small talk, when I have to go to a party, and if there's general talk, in the sense, why am I wasting time? So it's almost like every place you go to, you want to get back, because you build this whole cocoon about yourself, which is very, so for me, whenever somebody plays or does anything, whether it's a scientist or an author, or somebody who's really after something, that madness actually takes over. And actually it eclipses a lot of things in your life. And for me, I was very fortunate that I had a fallback in terms of a family. My mother initially, my mother, dad, father, later my wife also, and my kids also kind of accepted the fact that I'm like that only, kind of a thing. So today when I look back at it, yes, socially a bit challenging, because I go to a movie and I'm like, I can't sit in this theater for so long. Because in my mind, I'm playing badminton or coaching badminton, I'm thinking of badminton. When I get back to a party or to a social function, I just don't feel the enjoyment. Or even if I go on a holiday, I just think the holiday is more stressful about what I have missed rather than what is fun. So cutting off is a big challenge. Cutting off from careers is a big challenge, because as an athlete, as a player, I'm lucky that I get to live my life as an extension of my playing career. But think of it, one day, every day you spend time playing, and there's everything to look forward to. And there's a sudden moment in my life where you have to say, drop. You're retired. And
very early in life.
In any other profession, you do it when you have done maybe 60 years or 50 years of life. But here at 25, 30, 35, you're saying, boss, enough. And then when you get up in the morning, there's nothing to look forward to. And you don't know anything else. So there is a big challenge in sports persons actually getting used to life after sport, life with sport, because your entire life is surrounded around yourself. And you kind of build a small cocoon with your thoughts, your fears, and you being alone. You can start to enjoy that as well. And you live a lonely life at the top. And probably that's the sacrifice you have to make for being the best in a profession, any profession. And I think this is why we need maybe to build relationships better I've been very fortunate with a family which really supports me. But also when I come here for coaching, I'm also very fortunate that I have great relationship with my coaches and my staff and my students. So you have bad influences, because even as a coach, what you end up doing is when you pick people, they're happy. But when you don't pick them, they're unhappy. And the same people who've been very happy are sometimes very unhappy with you. So that's kind of, you borderline between being extremely good with you to repelling on the other side. So you have to live with that. And the only insurance you can have is you having peace with yourself and also some good relationships around.
Did it feel like sacrifice at that time? Because I've written in the book that you made choices. It was by choice. You never felt it was a compromise, that you were putting your focus on your sport rather than other places. Because as a child, it's very difficult to influence also. You know, people start rebelling. If you tell them, no, you have to play, you have to get up. So where did that mindset come from? I don't think anybody had to force you or coax you to give up things or to, you know, streamline yourself. So how does that come from such an early age? I mean, today people are struggling at work. The bosses are on their necks, you know, focus, don't be distracted, and there are workshops done around it. But you were wired like that.
Well, as you talk, the example which I get is the old weighing scale, where there's something on the other side and there's something else on the other side. For me, sport was everything. There was nothing on the other side. So for me, it was so totally weighed on one side that I never had to choose between this or that.
Wow.
So it was never a sacrifice, because if there was anything on the other side, I would have actually at least compared both of them. So my life was totally with the sport, and there was no other option. And luckily for me, in a way it sounds strange, but I was not good at anything else. So like studies, I wasn't, and the only reason why I studied was because it otherwise would hamper my game, because if I failed, then I mess up with playing. So the sport was there for a certain reason, studies were there for a certain reason, but basically it was all about sport. And as time grew by, and even today, it's all about the sport. And one of the things which I also feel maybe an extension to this is that although you're immersed in it, you also are aware of what's happening. I think it's the periphery which is important. So somewhere when I was playing, the thought of an academy was there and what needs to be done. The thought of coaching was there and what needs to be done. And that whole process around it was also kind of there in the back of my mind. So awareness of things around, or I don't know how I can put it in words, maybe a vision.
Yeah, the next vision, the next step. Yes. What after this?
What after this, I think is part of the awareness and the possibilities which you look at is also, I think, something which if you're calm and if you are able to peep inside for answers, I think you get that as well, is what my feeling is.
Yeah, like they say, you know, people are so focused on the wedding that they forget about the marriage ahead of it, you know. So the excitement ends after the wedding is over. Then to make the marriage work is a difficult one. So having a further vision, I think, always helps.
So when we are playing the sport, I think although you're immersed in the sport, it's also the awareness of what the umpire is doing, what the crowd is doing, what the air is doing, whether the drift, what the light is doing. So you kind of are aware, although the focus is here, but you kind of have a 360 roundup of things. And that's just what I think people who've been visionaries or people who think, I think there's something about a sport kind of a thing which is there, which is kind of, they could see the 360-degree picture more than the others would. And I guess if you have top businessmen or top politicians, I think they just see emotional, physical things around which probably a naked eye normally won't see, and that's what probably they're able to predict things upon.
Yeah, like, you know, an awareness on how that is impacting your game. You know, the crowd impacts your game, like even the air, you know, in badminton affects the game. So to know what is impacting my job and my work, having that awareness and how to control it or live with it or go with it, I think is...
Yeah, I think as you play the opponent, but the shuttle, how it behaves. Her coach or his coach, what is he telling her? What is that input coming from? So at the back of your mind, although you're looking here, you're kind of seeing what his coach is saying, what the crowd is doing, what the umpire might say, what the air is happening, what the light is, what the shuttle is. So they're like, the whole 360 is important, although the sport is important.